Welcome to the Simply Sales Podcast. This is where we share and discuss our experiences in the world of sales and business. Each week, we will provide you with actionable content to help you improve your sales game. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 006 of the Simply Sales Podcast. On this episode, I'd like to go through my 3 top quotes from Zig Ziglar. But before we get into that, let me just give you a bit of background information on Zig Ziglar himself. So, Zig Ziglar was an American author, motivational speaker, widely recognized as one of the pioneers of the industry. He had a unique delivery style of motivational and powerful speeches, as well as his unparalleled insight on human nature and what triggers individuals. He became one of the most renowned figures in the science of human potential. Zig Ziglar has inspired and influenced millions to work hard, be positive and goal-orientated. In the 1950s, as a salesman, he began giving sales training talks, and about 20 years later then launched his own business in order to offer training in sales and personal development. Zig Ziglar travelled all over the world to help others see and use their potential to their fullest. It's hard not to pay attention to such a charming personality who's there to encourage and give you hope. And his own story is nothing short of inspiring. If you've never heard of Zig Ziglar before this podcast episode, hit Google, type in Zig Ziglar. There's plenty of audiobooks about him, sales techniques and so on. And in the early days, Zig Ziglar was one of the people that I used to look up to and model, and I still do. So I suggest you check out Zig Ziglar. But here are 3 quotes from Zig Ziglar that kind of stand out to me. The first quote is, "Lack of direction, not a lack of time, is the problem. We all have 24 hours in a day, so there's no excuses. So if you are lacking motivation or you're lacking time, then there's obviously a reason for that. And possibly it's having the unknown direction that you want to go in. So because you don't know where you want to go, you don't know what you've got to do to achieve it. So for me, that stands out. Quote number 2, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Now, this has always resonated with me, and, this goes in line with my values and thoughts for the podcast. So I started the podcast not to be great, but I started so I could learn along the way. And hopefully as we go along, we'll get better at recording, editing, we'll upgrade the equipment, the software and so on. But the most important thing is to start is better to start than not start at all. If you wait till you're great at something, then the likelihood is you won't start doing it. So key message from that is just start now. Quote number 3 is, some of us learn from other people's mistakes and the rest of us have to be other people. So it's great for you to be able to learn from someone else's mistakes. So as a child, your parents may say, don't do that because this happened to me. That's great because you learn from their failures. But then sometimes as you improve and you get better at doing things, sometimes you're the one that's making the mistakes, and that's okay, because all that means is you're evolving, and actually you don't know someone that's come across this problem beforehand. So in an ideal world, learn from other people's mistakes. However, when your time is right, other people will then learn from your mistakes. I hope you enjoyed this episode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with a motivational speech from Zig Ziglar himself called Keep On Pumping. If you want to have a look at it on YouTube, you can. Literally just type into YouTube, Zig Ziglar, Keep Pumping. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on episode 007. Introducing Zig Ziglar.
Everybody could become an expert at anything at a drop of a hat. Would there be any rewards for it? And I think you have the answer even as I ask the question. Got a couple of good buddies. They used to live down in South Alabama. Their names were Bernard Haygood and Jimmy Glenn. One day they're out riding through the South Alabama foothills and they got a little thirsty. Well, Bernard was the driver. He's also the athletic one. So he hopped out of the car. He ran around to this old abandoned pump there in the back of this old farmhouse. And he grabbed the handle of the pump and he started to pump. Now, let me say that when old Bernard grabbed that handle and started to pump, since it was August and brutally hot that day. He was anxious to get some water out, so he really got after it. He was just pumping away. And after a couple of minutes, he said, Jimmy, you better get that old bucket over there and dip some water out of the creek. He said, we're going to have to prime this pump. All that really means is that you got to put something in here before you can expect to get anything out here. The pump is really saying in another way what we've said so many times, and that is that you gotta be and do before you can have. Too many people stand in front of the stove of life, and they say, stove, now, you give me some heat, and then I'll put some wood in you. So many times the employee goes to the employer and says, now give me a raise. And when you give me the raise, I'll start coming to work on time. I'll start doing the things you really want me to do. What they're saying is, reward me now, and then later I'll perform. That's not the way it works. First, you've got to put something in before you can expect to get anything out. Well, old Bernard wanted to drink water. But the question is, just how much pumping are you willing to do in order to get that drink of water? And after a few minutes, he said, Jimmy, I just don't believe there's any water down there. And Jimmy said, yes, it is, Bernard. You know, in South Alabama, the wells are deep. We're glad they are, aren't we? Because, you see, the deeper the well, the cleaner, the sweeter, the purer, the better tasting the water is. And isn't that another lesson the pump can teach us? Isn't it true that those things which have value, I mean real value, are those things which we have to work for over a period of time? Yes, it's absolutely true. That those things which have value, which have real value, are those things which we make that honest effort to acquire. We work at it, and we do a little sweating in the process, and by now, old Bernard is really beginning to sweat. I mean, it's August, it's hot, and finally he just threw up his hand. He said, Jimmy, there just ain't no water down there. Jimmy said, don't stop, Bernard, don't stop. If you stop, that water's going to go all the way back down, and then you're going to have to start all over. And isn't that the story of life? Isn't it true that so many people lose out on a lot of effort they've expended in the past because they don't do just a little bit more?
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. If you'd like to connect with us, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Simply Sales Podcast. Alternatively, you can head over to the website simplysalespodcast.com.